How strong is Ryūken Ishida, who, like his son, bears the moniker Last Quincy? Bearing a Quincy cross with the symbol of the Quincy Ryūken, he announced himself by destroying a Menos Grande before it could regenerate. For the sake of comparison, I'll be using Uryu Ishida, Hashwald's aide, Masaki Kurosaki, and Isshin Shiba. It should be noted that Ryūken inherited all of the Quincy abilities and techniques from his predecessor, which means that this guy should have a lot of abilities. As a pureblood Quincy, Ryūken was born with the Blut technique, not Blut vein or Blut artery, but the Blut overall, which means that he should have both. This would allow him to release Reishi directly into his blood vessels, drastically increasing his offensive and defensive capabilities, with the Blut artery and the Blut vein respectively, each Blut requiring a different Reishi system. Ryūken was very much like Masaki Kurosaki, whose Blut vein was so strong that it was inconceivable that even White was able to get through it. For those who don't know, White, or Howaito, refers to the Shinigami-based, Vastralordish-shaped hollow created by Aizen's team, a being which would later meld with Ichigo's Shinigami powers. Back when it fought against Isshin Shiba, the captain of Squad 10, who was a great noble and possessed monstrous spiritual pressure, it forced its base form to go on the defensive and pushed him back into another squad's jurisdiction. This pushed Captain Shiba to activate his Shikai and Getsu, before suffering a deep wound from a concealed enemy, intending on preventing Isshin from using Bankai, but also prevented him from properly stabilizing his spiritual pressure. And although Isshin could inflict damage upon Howaito's body, in his current state and power, Howaito had the advantage. Despite Masaki's arrows not being a match for Howaito's speed, again it should be noted that it was completely shocking that Howaito could even damage her. Even Isshin, who had fought the hollow directly, was taken aback by this. But it should be noted that White was built specifically for soul infiltration, and the Blut of the pure Quincy could still stand up to this assault. And despite her Blut being this powerful, it should be noted that Masaki was not impressed with the progress of her Seiren or spiritual training. Ryūken, on the other hand, not only possessed his own pure Quincy powers, including the Blut, but would go on to assimilate the strength of his predecessor, amping himself with that additional strength. He also added that compared to the likes of Soul Society Arc Uryu, who used the Let Still, his power is not so easily disposed of, implying that Ryūken could use the Let Still without actually losing all of his power, which, going by this implication, he would be trespassing in the realm of the Volstandig. The Let Still is an ability which allows a Quincy to reach the pinnacle of their individual spiritual power. As the inheritor of the Quincy's techniques, Ryūken would also be able to use the Let Still, and his base form, which was already amped by his predecessor, would see a drastic increase in speed, defensive power, offensive power, and so on. In this form, he would easily rip apart Reishi structures at the buildings of the Soul Society, absorb them and amp his own strength further. The speed increase for Uryu alone was so impressive that he went from being perception blitzed by the likes of Mayuri Kurotsuchi to being too quick for the mad scientist to evade. And at that point, Uryu was still holding back against the mad scientist. Furthermore, Let Still Uryu was stronger than its Wakomunda Arc version, which was able to defeat Tsuruchi Sanderwich, one of the Privarone Espada. The Privarone Espadas being stronger than Fractions like Shaolong, who in the early Aranka arc was stronger than a Bankai 20% Toshiro Itsugaya while being in base form. Now imagine Ryūken amplifying his own power with the Let Still, his power being harder to get rid of than Uryu's. It's also not inconsistent for Ryūken to scale to some of the Stern Richters in terms of raw power, especially if he were to use the Let Still, considering that Hashwald's aide, who did not have a Shrift, was said to have fighting ability surpassing some of the Stern Richters, even without using something like a Let Still, which is something the Bandenreich had already discarded, a relic which would have been passed down to Ryūken from Soken. In the Conferior own world, it was further assumed that Ryūken and Uryu might be able to perform the Volstandig and by extension the Sclaviray. Furthermore, Ryūken would also possess a multitude of Quincy spells which he could use in battle. The ability to restore the power lost from the Let Still, and was responsible for constructing the Still Silver Arrow, which ultimately halted Yuha's abilities, even displaying his broad knowledge of Quincy abilities. In addition to their lore and history, he also possesses the Sealed Schneider, which Uryu used in the Wakomunda arc. It uses a principle of particle vibration to steal the enemy's Reishi and absorb them, by breaking the bonds between their Reishi before collecting them. At this point in the story, Uryu stated that Sealed Schneider was the most powerful embodiment of Reishi gathering. Furthermore, he simply stole some from his father's hospital storage, and as a powerful, vastly intelligent Quincy, he would also possess the ability to sense the vibration of Reishi particles even at millions of cycles per second. This sensory power is so incredible, like sensing the vibration of atoms. In conclusion, Ryūken is most certainly powerful, and I really hope we get to see him fight in the upcoming anime episodes. Like and subscribe if you learned something new. Cheers.